Okay, so this video. If you know nothing about rugby, if the words Springboks and All Blacks mean nothing to you, this video is not for you. If you want to hear me get very animated and ramble about something unrelated to politics, stay tuned, I suppose. Now, being South African, particularly of Afrikaner heritage, it means you are borderline compelled by some unspoken law to be a rugby fan. There are many of us whose love of rugby approaches a borderline religious-like devotion, and seeing as I am no longer a resident of South Africa, I can agree with the sentiment, seeing as it is one of the few times I get to see my country kick ass. In the world of rugby, the two biggest teams to watch are South Africa versus New Zealand. It is the event of the rugby calendar every year. No disrespect to everyone else, but these are your top titans. It is the brutal strength of the Springboks versus the flair of the mighty All Blacks, and this is the natural order of things. And New Zealand are a god-tier class of their own. Watching New Zealand play is like watching poetry in motion. They have this ability to turn broken or loose play into crystallized attack seemingly from nothing. Their support play is unrivaled. It is insane. It is a uniquely All Black ability. And watching them play, your heart will pulse wildly because there is this tangible sense of anxiety that if they get the ball, regardless of where the hell they are on the field, they can score even if they're pinned to their own freaking try line because they can. And because of this, besting New Zealand, claiming an All Black scalp, is an achievement, rivaled only by winning a World Cup. Beating New Zealand carries more weight than winning any other tournament. That is how much a win is valued in rugby terms. I remember years ago, when they had this period of seemingly invincible characters. Kevin Mialamu at hooker, Kieran Reid at 8, McCaw as flanker, Carter or Cruden at 10, Mao Nonu and Conrad Smith as your centre pairings, Dag at fullback or on the wing. Ben Smith, oh my lord, I hated watching Ben Smith play with a passion because he was so freaking good. He would get the ball in spaces where you couldn't fit a damn mouse through, yet somehow he would find a way through, and more likely than not, he would also get the offload. And you're watching this with antagonizing frustration, thinking, how is he doing this with so unpleased? Mark the man. In my opinion, he was the best 15 they had. He could best Carlos Spencer or even Christian Cullen, which is a very bold and rather contentious statement to make around certain company. So they would have these players, and New Zealand is not a particularly populated country, it's rather tiny, and yet they would crack out talent like it's no one's business. You would have these old stalwarts and scoff and think, oh, how will they ever be able to replace these greats? And then in comes Cody Taylor, Dane Coles, Artie and Julian Sevilla, Milner Scudder, Damien McKenzie, Siverus, Piranara, Malachi Fekitoa, Sonny Bill Williams, Lau Mape. I'm amazed he's playing in France and wasn't more used by the All Blacks because his power is mesmerizing to watch. Now, recently, however, the All Blacks have hit a wall. They lost twice at home to Ireland. Again, no offense to Ireland, but people have to understand this. The Southern Hemisphere are the kings of rugby, and the North are just not up to par. They've won one World Cup in 2003 with England, and the Southern Hemisphere nation have won all the rest. Now, bringing in a whole new head coach and rejigging the machinery more than halfway through a World Cup cycle, you have to have a really special coach and team to be able to pull that off and still expect to walk out with the William Webb Ellis Trophy. Oh wait, we did that in 2019 with Rassie Erasmus and won. Haha. So New Zealand losing at home twice to Ireland is an SOS if New Zealand ever needed one. Because when they lose, their faces look like they've attended a funeral. An all-black uniform rather fitting for the occasion, but I digress. One thing you can damn near always count on, because New Zealand don't take losses very lightly, is a wounded New Zealand side take it as a point of pride to make a statement coming off a loss. And on the weekend, they played South Africa, so I was rather weary of what they could potentially bring. And boy, for once was I wrong. We won the game 26-10, which is an unusually high score against New Zealand. Actually, it's the second biggest winning margin against New Zealand since 1928. And that's not to take anything away from South Africa. I mean, our rugby is not particularly pretty. It's not full of flair and gorgeous pieces of interplaying, passing, and creative offloading. It's ugly. Now, with Afrikaners, we lead with raw power. We'll just outmuscle and frustrate you with a high ball and punish you with every penalty you concede. Thank you, Malcolm Marx. But New Zealand never once looked particularly threatening. They were in disarray, aimless. They were attacked like any coherence and teeth. They were making basic errors that were utterly uncharacteristic of what would otherwise be a roaring, polished New Zealand machine. I was bewildered at this. About 25 minutes in, my heart wasn't racing, I wasn't nervous. I had to have an honest moment with myself and admit, I'm rather bored. I've watched rugby since I was a boy. Never once have I ever said I am bored watching the Springboks play the All Blacks, and this is not good. This is their fifth defeat out of 6 games. The last time they had this much of a slump was in 1998, 24 years ago. That is 6 World Cup cycles. Rugby needs a strong standard bearer, and as much as I hate admitting this because they are and will always be our biggest rivals, it has to be New Zealand. This nation has cultivated an aura of prestige and power around their name that no other nation ever has, and likely never will. No one else carries this aura the way the All Blacks do. It evokes this sense of potential dread and need to elevate one's game in a way that no other team does. It's a uniquely All Black trait. I've seen a bunch of comments saying, oh, this is good for rugby, and it pissed me off. This is not good for rugby. This is terrible for rugby. What would be good is if the rest of the world elevated their game to rival the All Blacks. But this isn't what has happened here. The mighty has fallen, and that is not good. There's been no improvement to the game. I expect better than this from rugby fans. We're not stupid. We're not football fans. The point I'm trying to make here is this. As annoyingly good as New Zealand have been in the past, there is nothing on earth that evokes a yes out of me like seeing South Africa beat a truly great New Zealand team. But when New Zealand are in this kind of a state, there's no spice or tension to the spectacle. There's no depth to the victory. There's no glory or honor to be had in besting a weakened foe. So New Zealand, buck up and grow a pair so I can feel good again about the Springboks kicking your ass. And that is all for today. I will see you all next time.